Welcome to Young Achievers, where we celebrate extraordinary youth who are making their mark on the world, whether it's through innovation, entrepreneurship, giving back, or breaking new ground. On this episode, we're going to meet
Katie Stagliano.
At just 9 years old, Katie Stagliano planted a single cabbage that grew into a movement. Today, Katie has dedicated her life to fighting hunger through her organization, Katie's Krops.
My name is Katie Stagliano. I am the founder and chief executive gardener of Katie's Krops. I began Katie's Krops when I was 9 years old. I am now 26 years old, and Katie's Krops is my full-time job. So over the past several years, I have been blessed to be able to meet some incredible people, work with some incredible people who are all very passionate like me about ending hunger one vegetable garden at a time. And that is truly the mission for Katie's Krops and for my life, is just working to providing a healthy end to hunger one vegetable garden at a time, and also empowering youth to be able to make an impact in their communities, because I started with my dream and Katie's Krops when I was only 9 years old. So I really want to highlight the power of youth and how they are able to make such an incredible impact in the world.
What or who inspired you to help the community in this way?
So initially, we had always had kind of a small salad garden in our backyard, nothing too crazy. And every night before we would sit down to dinner, my dad would always tell us just how fortunate we were to be sitting down to a healthy meal, and how there are some families who went to bed hungry or relied on soup kitchens for what might be their only meal of the day. So I was in the 3rd grade at the time, and I brought home a tiny cabbage seedling. It was just about yay big, planted that seedling in my backyard, and that tiny seedling grew to be a 40-pound cabbage. And that 40-pound cabbage was about the size of my 4-year-old brother at the time, which is insanity. And so I really went back to thinking about what my dad would say every night before dinner, and just stressing how fortunate we were and how there's some families who had fallen down on hard times. And I was thinking we had always had the small salad garden, but now I had a massive 40-pound cabbage. And I was like, what does one do with a 40-pound cabbage? And so I thought, what better thing to do with it than to give it to those who might not otherwise have a meal. So one Wednesday morning in May of 2008, I brought my tiny cabbage seedling that had grown into the massive 40-pound cabbage to a local soup kitchen in North Charleston, South Carolina. And I was then blessed to be invited back to serve the cabbage, and they turned my cabbage into cabbage soup. They paired it with ham and rice, and I was able to serve it to 275 guests of the soup kitchen. And that whole experience truly changed my life, because I, at 9 years old, wasn't really aware of the issue of hunger and food insecurity, how many people had just fallen down on hard times, had something unfortunate happen, and now they were looking for where their next meal would come from, struggling to go between paying their bills, keeping a roof over their head, and putting food on the table. And so getting to see each and every person that my cabbage helped to feed was life-changing for me. And I thought, if one cabbage can help to feed 275 people, then imagine how many people an entire garden could feed. And it was just like something clicked in my brain, and I was like, was so much fun to grow my cabbage. And what if I were to just grow more and donate it to soup kitchens, to homeless shelters, to families who have fallen down on these rough times? And so after my cabbage and just hearing what my dad had said, I was like, I know I need to do more. And so that was really the catalyst for me to start Katie's Krops and to start with a garden in my backyard. I went home and I was like, Mom and Dad, we have to turn our small salad garden that we have to turn that into a garden where we can donate all of the produce. And so we did. And then we just slowly kind of built up from there. I remember being in the 4th grade and approaching my school and saying, this is what I did with my cabbage seedling. This is how many people my cabbage helped to feed. I would love to do more. And when I was in the 4th grade, my school gave me a plot of land the size of a football field. It was amazing. They said, this is your garden. You can do whatever you would like with it. And so I took that small plot of land and I turned it into the first garden that wasn't at my house. And I was engaging the children at my school. We were working together and we were donating the produce to those in need in the community. And so that was really how Katie's Krops got its start. And now we're a full-fledged nonprofit and have been since 2010. Our mission is to empower youth to start and maintain vegetable gardens and donate the produce to feed those in need, as well as assist and inspire others to do the same. And we not only have the garden in my backyard that I started with, but we now have gardens all across the United States. They're all started and run by youth between the ages of 7 and 16, and all of the produce is donated directly to those in need in the communities. We also do educational programming that is based off of the garden, and we do monthly garden-to-table dinners free of charge to anyone in need in the community.
What would you say were the biggest hurdles you had to overcome?
So I think we face a lot of different challenges with what we do at Katie's Krops. For one, with gardens, you are always going to face the challenges with the weather, with pests, with animals coming into your garden. I know that even from the beginning when I planted my cabbage seedling, I actually built a cabbage cage around it because there were deer that had been in my parents' neighborhood, and my neighbors were like, they're going to eat your cabbage. And so I remember calling my grandfather. We constructed a cabbage cage. It was made out of wooden posts, and we wrapped chicken wire around it. Did the trick, protected my cabbage from being a deer's late night snack. But always with Katie's Krops and with all of these gardens across the country, there are kind of different barriers with weather depending on the climate you're in. We have lots of pests that we face, as I'm sure every gardener does, and we are all organic with what we do because we are donating it and it's going directly to feed people. So we're always kind of looking for new and different organic ways to treat the pests and make sure they don't harm the plants. We have deer that love to come in our gardens. If you come to our flagship garden, you'll actually see we have Irish Spring soap hanging from the fence because the scent apparently deters deer. Like, we are going above and beyond to try and help ways to keep the garden safe, but also making sure that we don't use any pesticides. So that is always a challenge we'll face. Also, with weather being so unpredictable, I am in South Carolina, so we get hit with a lot of different hurricanes, tropical storms, and I know that those can be really detrimental to our gardens. We've been very fortunate and haven't had anything too major happen. We are going to have to replace most of the beds in our flagship garden because of Tropical Storm Debbie and just the amount of rainfall, the standing water. The beds have just started to rot and disintegrate, and there's boards hanging off, like they are hanging on by a thread. So that is something that we're going to have to do because of the weather. And then otherwise, too, some other challenges that I think I personally have faced, and I think it's kind of universal for a lot of youth that are out there making a difference, is just age and people saying, oh, you're too young. And those people don't know what they're talking about, because it really doesn't matter how young or how old you are. You can make an incredible impact in the world. And I think just all of the youth that are Katie's Krops growers are proving that. They are not letting their age define them. They see a need in their community. They're passionate about helping people gain access to fresh produce. They love gardening. They're going out there. They are growing the produce themselves. They're finding who needs it most in their community. They're donating it, and they are doing this as young as 7 years old. And it's incredible to see. They will go through the challenges. They'll have bugs eating their plants, and they're dealing with that, and they are finding where the greatest need is. I know that we've had some growers. We had a grower, Ian, in Texas, and this was a little bit ago, but when Hurricane Harvey hit Texas, Ian actually took the produce from his garden and he decided he was going to prepare meals for those that had been affected by the hurricane. Like, these kids are proving that to those who say you're too young, what are you going to be able to do at 8 years old? Actually, you can do so much. You can do anything that you want. And I think that's something that I dealt with growing up, where people were like, oh, like, this is just a phase, like, you're too young, you don't know what you're doing. And I think that the amazing thing about young children is the way that your mind works, and you don't see the obstacles. Instead, you just see, how amazing would it be if I could do this? What do I need to do to make it happen? And then just going for it and showing that you can do anything that you set your mind to.
What's an example of a time when things didn't go smoothly?
So I think there's a couple of different instances, but I think I'll say one would be, I was very excited about the impact that we were making when I first started Katie's Krops. So this was back in 2010, and I had our huge flagship garden at my school, the size of a football field, and I had found a local soup kitchen in the Somerville area that I was donating to, and was feeling like I was really making an incredible impact there. And I remember the day that I showed up with my mom, and we would go, depending on how the garden was doing, once or twice a week with baskets full of vegetables. So we showed up, and there was just a sign on the door, and it said that the shelter closed due to lack of funding, and that was just it. Like, we had been there several days before, and everything had been fine, and then all of a sudden the doors were shut. And I was heartbroken because I felt like I had started to get into the groove of things. I was making and developing these relationships with people at the shelter. I was able to help provide them with fresh produce. I was able to help the shelter out. It had really become such a wonderful relationship, and I felt like we were truly making a difference in the community. And now I was like, well, what happens next? Where are people in the community going to go for meals? Like, what is the next move here? And that's when I was like, okay, we have all of these gardens full of fresh produce. What if my friends and I came together and we made the meals? I was like, what if we were to do that? And so that was kind of a very pivotal moment in Katie's Krops, because I remember that it was a huge obstacle kind of thrown in our path, because we were like, how are we supposed to help the local community now if the outlet that we were helping them through is no longer there? And so that kind of allowed us to step back, take a look, and say, what can we do to solve this problem? And so that's how the Katie's Krops dinners were born. And this year, we are going on 14 years of the Katie's Krops dinners, and it all began back in 2010 when the doors were shut at this local soup kitchen. And so now my friends and I come together. Started off with, I went to the head of food services at my school. I said, hey, this is what I really want to do. We have the produce from the garden. Whatever we couldn't grow, we'll purchase, and we want to make these meals. So he stepped up, was helping us. I remember being, I want to say I was in the fifth or sixth grade at the time. And we had our first dinner. We were serving about 200 people per dinner. We're doing them once a month. And we did that all the way up until COVID. And then once COVID happened, we couldn't have the 200 people gathered together for these dinners, because they were all gathered together inside the fellowship hall of a local church. So we'd utilize their kitchen, and then people would come through the line. Everyone would sit together. It was a really great social opportunity, as well as an opportunity to get a free meal. And so I remember just after all of that being like, what are we going to do now? Because now we've found something that works, and COVID kind of threw a wrench in that. And so we pivoted again, and we decided that we were going to do drive-through meals. And instead of doing them once a month, we're going to do them once a week. So we went from doing 200 meals once a month to doing between 500 and 600, 700 meals a week. We had a very, very small team. There was 5 of us. It was me, my mom, our head chef, and then 2 other volunteers. And we would prepare the meals, box them up, and pass them out all ourselves. We had utilized the parking lot of the church that we had been previously using, and kind of just created a drive-through system. People would drive through, they would get their meals in to-go boxes. We would give out desserts, fresh bread, and milk as well. And I remember when we first started and COVID was so bad, there was the stay-at-home mandates, that we were actually deemed an essential business by our local town. So we were able to keep doing our dinners, and we would have mile-long backups of people just trying to get in to get a meal. And so that was kind of a huge thing that we were able to do to help the community. We served in 2020 18,000 meals. And then 2021, we went to every other week. And now we're back to once a month, and we do 700 meals once a month now. And what we also added in COVID was delivery, where we would deliver to people without transportation, medical issues, who aren't able to leave their homes. And we have a local sheriff who delivers to the homeless encampments. So all of that, and the Katie's Krops dinners, the amazing connections I've made, the relationships I've been able to form, all of that started from something that could have been a huge obstacle and could have just ended there. I could have been like, well, now I need to find a new shelter to donate to, and that could have been that. But it was able to really turn into this incredibly beautiful thing and just changed my life in so many ways and give me a second family.
What advice would you give to other young people who want to follow in your footsteps?
So I think the advice that I would give, one, is to follow your heart and find a cause that you believe in. I quite literally grew a 40-pound cabbage and was led down this path of youth service, and I decided that I was going to dedicate my life to ending hunger. And that was something that I came across a problem, and I said, I know I can do something about this. I know I want to do something about this. And now I have been doing Katie's Krops since I was 9 years old. And so that is just an incredible experience where I followed my heart, and it has led me down the most amazing path. I've had the most amazing experiences. And so really follow your heart. If there is a cause that you believe in, if there is an issue, something that you know that you can make a difference, you can make a change, go for it. It doesn't matter how young or how old you are. Don't let anyone tell you that you're too young to make a difference, that you're too old to make a difference. You can do whatever you want to do. And then I think my next advice would really be just to start small, because I know sometimes looking at a project, especially looking at hunger, it's so daunting. There are so many hungry people all around the world. There are so many people that don't know where their next meal is coming from, and that's a daunting issue to look at. But starting small, you can grow on your efforts. You can continue to expand once you get your footing. And also working together, we're so much stronger when we work together. I know that personally, I will never be the one to end hunger, but with my work with Katie's Krops, with our amazing Katie's Krops growers and our Katie's Krops growing family, we are going to be a part of the solution. We're going to be a part of the impact. And although we may not do it and won't do it by ourselves, we are going to be making a change, and we're going to be a part of ending hunger. And so I think looking at an issue in its entirety can be incredibly daunting. So kind of just break it down and say, what can I do? How can I be a part of the solution? How can I engage others to join in with me? How can I start small and then grow and continue to expand my impact?
What's the most valuable advice you've gotten, and who shared it with you?
I think, a couple of different pieces of advice, and they're kind of morphed together in a way, but I think the best piece of advice I received was from my parents, and it was when I was just beginning Katie's Krops, and there was a lot of people that were coming out and being like, oh, she's too young for this. Like, what are you getting yourself into? You're not going to be able to do this alone. There was a lot of kind of naysayers out there, people that were like, and they told me that you, one, don't know what someone's going through until you step in their shoes. And that was something that I definitely learned to be true as I developed these relationships with the people that I was helping. Because there's a lot of people that come out and say, oh, well, the person you're helping, they drive a nice car, so they might not need the food. And I'm like, they may be living in their car. That might be all they have. They also may be coming through and getting meals for their neighbors, for their family, for their friends. And so you truly don't know what someone's going through until you are in their shoes. And also, what you're doing is so important, and you shouldn't let other people's thoughts impact that. Like, if I had let people who were coming to me and saying, you're too young to be doing this, if I had let those words impact me, then I might not be where I am today. I might not be able to say that with the help of the amazing Katie's Krops growers, we've grown and donated over 700,000 pounds of fresh produce. And if I had let what somebody thought impact what I was doing, or when somebody said, oh, are you sure you're really making a difference because that person doesn't look like they might need a meal because of their appearance or because of what I think someone who's hungry or homeless should look like. If I had let any of that kind of impact me, then who knows where I would be today. But it's something that I've always kind of stood true to, and I've been like, this is what I want to do. I know I'm making an impact, and someone might not understand. They might not know what someone's going through and the impact that this meal is giving them, and that's okay. And they might think that I was too young when I started Katie's Krops, or that it was something that I wasn't going to continue, and that's okay as well, because I've been able to continue my work. I've been able to grow along the way and help a lot of people and not let other people's opinions or stereotypes or anything kind of get in the way of that.
What legacy do you hope to leave behind?
I hope that when all is said and done, that the legacy I leave through Katie's Krops is one that's not so much about me, but more so about the youth that are making an impact and showing that age doesn't matter and that you can do whatever you set your mind to from a young age and really change the world. And I hope that people are able to see, just through the incredible Katie's Krops growers and our volunteers and everyone who makes the work that we do possible, that one small action can change the world, that your age should never define you when it comes to making an impact. And people are able to see that, and it will hopefully inspire them to not only tackle the issue of hunger in their community, but also any other issues that they may see and feel passionately about, and say, I can do this too, I can make an impact too, and kind of see how one tiny cabbage seedling changed my life forever, and how one small thing can really just make a huge impact on them, change their life, and how they can use that to make an impact. So I just want people to know that age is never an obstacle, the size of your efforts, none of that matters. What matters is the impact that you are making on your community and on the world. And so I hope that people are inspired to do what they want to do to make a difference. So you can reach out to us to get involved, to support our work. If you know of any grants, any funding opportunities, if you want to become a Katie's Krops grower, check us out. Our website is katieskrops.com, Katie with a K and Krops with a K. If you happen to be youth between the ages of 7 and 16 and you're interested in becoming a grower, check to see if our grower search is open. That's on our website. You can also contact us if you live in the area to volunteer. Our volunteer list is there as well. So everything's on our website, and our social media is also just Katie's Krops, Katie with a K and Krops with a K.
And there you have it, Katie Stagliano's incredible journey from planting a single cabbage to feeding thousands.
Katie shows us that no matter your age, you can make a big difference in the world, one small step at a time. So, what's your passion? If you're willing to nurture it, just like Katie, you too can help solve problems and change lives.
The world is waiting for your contribution. Start today. Join me on the next episode of Young Achievers.